I have no idea what this Sunday might entail, but what I do know is that coding and, the whole entire tech industry has a nice, interesting sort of thing going on here. And another really interesting, nice thing is that you haven't hit that like button yet, or the subscribe button, or the notification bell. So if you haven't done that already, do it. But anywho, there's a phenomenon that I've been really observing lately, and it's been kind of tragic, We've seen an uprising of pompous, obnoxious AI, so-called product managers, saying they've claimed the whole entire world. They have $10 million ARRs, and they're just happy people. What if I told you that is not the case at all, and it's getting a lot worse from here? And it's really funny. So first off, Cursor decided to employ some limits on their usage. So what does that mean? Vibe coders are kind of fucked, and this is kind of concerning because the so-called geniuses and wonderful people we've been seeing are actually turning out to be a bunch of dunces. So you have Cursor rate limits, and it's been pretty obvious that people are upset because they can't be lazy anymore. Now you might be asking, well, what's wrong with using Cursor? It gets jobs done that, you'd be usually typing on your own. That makes sense for probably like a small little script, but people are literally using this to make large scale applications. And when you have problems that are somewhat unique and they aren't just ubiquitous boilerplate code you can find anywhere, you might just outsource your solutions to GitHub. And I've seen on a few articles that there are malicious masqueraded codes designed to look nice that can backdoor your code, so you have security issues. You also have unnecessary features. You have future proofing, and maybe you aren't implementing the right design patterns. And I've even seen Gemini decide to overwrite some people's comments on their code. That's absolutely insane. Anywho, enough with the bashing. This has kind of caused an interesting uptake in people. I mentioned in another video that people refer to VS coding as raw dogging coding, which is kind of funny because that's just coding. There's nothing wrong with using your brain. And when I say we're evolving backwards, it's because we're literally being forced to go back to the coding as we've known it, because majority of the AI code developers are really just not the most rich people ever. You have the big companies who might utilize these AI tools, sure, but we're gonna see a big shift in just going back to normal coding. Now, obviously, there's nothing wrong with AI assisted coding, but I'm referring to people who just full on vibe code. Like vibe coding in a really depressing way. I have like a bunch of posts I've seen where people are literally saying like, yo, here's my stack. And like, all right, well, what front end, what do you, I'm like, what front end do you use? What back end? What database do you might use? What might you have in your project? And it's like, oh, I use Claude Code front end, and I use VS Code with built-in Gemini MCP. And just sit here, just kind of staring off in the distance, just wondering what the hell went into that person's head. Nonetheless, you should definitely be following me. And I know it says get verified there. Listen, I don't want to pay to have success. Only a loser does that. So fortunately, I could say confidently that I've been on my ethical grind for about 3 days in a row. I've gotten some decent stuff from my Git graph. We've gotten 4 days in a row. As we can see, July 6th needs some space to be filled, in which we will definitely do that. Now, obviously, this is not 100% related, but I experience common frustrations with using AI in my code. One of them is that AI sometimes will just give me the complete wrong idea. I was trying to make a little software that could separate images by the date you took them, because some softwares just don't do that. And I was recommended to use some really obscure library, and I just went on Google and I went on like some forum and I found out that Pillow on Python can solve all that, which is a massively documented thing. And this is just one of the issues you might experience. What's really funny about this is that we're probably going to see people just stop claiming to be something they're not, because when you add limits on these sort of AI coding environments, you're gonna see that, wait a minute, where did all these people go? Because it's all about marketing. We've kind of seen that. I saw an article talking about how vibe coding is kind of like cameras for YouTubers. Like they do all the work, right? And you just get one result in the end, which is the video. But I disagree with this take heavily, but there's still some parts of it that can be automated. And we've seen things like Cluely, wonderful advertising, and you almost forget that there's a product behind it. You forget that there's even something going on, because the front end ends up being really appealing. We've seen a lot of annoyed people here. I spent $9,000 on Claude last month, making 60,000 MRR on band. I keep on thinking B2B is band to band, bro. I'm actually so internet pilled, and it's just the Amazon bookstore site. We're out here building, but it's just 3 dudes in an unfurnished apartment clicking except for hours. So you can probably see it now. The structure behind the code is just so terrible. And I will not forget Cluely here, because this was so funny. And those views are so fat, bro. This guy makes you so mad. And another sort of uprising is the anti-AI. Obviously, it's really stupid. You can't be anti-AI. You have to accept it. AI is going to be here forever. But there's a new term called ChatGPT psychosis. I don't know what's wrong with me, but something's very bad. I'm very scared and I need to go to the hospital. It's real. People think that we're doomed. And as we can see, the pendulum's kind of going back. It's not 100% related, but it's definitely notable that reading code as a skill is honestly a little bit harder than writing it. It's because, as a human, you need to utilize your human critical thinking skills and understand people's code. And obviously, when you get to a point of using code so much that where you can only understand reading code, it's going to be a whole different story when you need to write your own code without the use of AI. And why would that mean something? If AI can do everything for you, what's the point? When you write your own ideas down, you can build a really articulate code base that will be easy to read for others. Because AI obviously is going to have its own way of doing things. It might have every single design pattern memorized, but deep down, there's going to be just a way they do it. That's probably why there's an AI code detector out there. It just makes sense. Another thing to note here is that trust. People literally just don't trust it. And of course not, because they're not human. They're just a bunch of math algorithms, dude. Why would you trust them more than a human? 65% of developers using AI for refactoring and around 60% for testing, writing, and reviewing say the assistant misses relevant context. Who would have thought? Context, a thing that really only humans can know or understand out of any sort of species on the whole planet, would do something better than something that doesn't work with context. You have to feed an AI model every piece of context possible. I mean, there's people out there claiming that prompting is the new way of making money because you literally need to feed every piece of information. You aren't AI coding right. You're just not doing the prompt right. It doesn't matter how much context you give your prompt in the AI or the LLM. It's going to spit out something that's not 100% to your needs because your brain already has the context and the capacity to understand the problem. You just need to know how to implement it the right way, not ask some third party to do it because it'll never fit the mold fully. Hopefully this makes sense. It's not to say that AI coding is completely useless. It's very useful, but just, there's human nature in our bones and our blood. People are just laying on this. They're just leaning back, do the work for me. And that's very, very calamitous. This is an article written in 2000, and it's about reading code. And I found another article here called Writing Code Was Never the Bottleneck. And as we know, AI writes the code. But reviewing it and making sure that it, checks off all the boxes is what really drives the point home. So it'd be silly to just use AI the whole time. So it almost makes sense that people are evolving backwards. It's funny to watch it because you think we just evolve in a linear line, but no, it just doesn't seem 100% probable. I love writing my own codes. I mean, I'll use AI if I need to, if I want to refactor some code that I know and I already planned out. But dude, to just do it all from scratch is like a death wish. That's like stupid to me. And I'm sure the people out there who are like elite, like above me, I'm probably in the middle of the graph right now for intelligence. But I mean, there are people out there who don't even have a social presence. They just code all day and they're absolutely like befuddlingly cracked. They probably already know this. They write their own code because they know the AI might mess it up. Because context, you have human versus non-human, right? Anyways though, that was my rant for today. Should you stick to coding raw? Absolutely. Of course, AI assisted, that's normal, that's inevitable. AI assisted coding's fine, but just don't rely. Your brain is going to pay the price. You can't see it now, but it will be there later. And it's not to be anti-AI, just trust me on this. Just use AI as much as you can without hurting yourself. All right, capiche? Capiche. Take care, see ya.